John Campion on his knees. And a very good afternoon from the western end of the M4 motorway. We're at Pont Abraham Services, which is about 6 miles in to the Police and Crime Commission's area for Dyfed-Powys, and we'll be meeting David Llewellyn in just a couple of moments from now. My name's James Luckhurst, and here we are for the Thursday afternoon broadcast, which will be action-packed. There'll be plenty going on. Before we start, I just need to provide an update from our Safe Speeds Day that happened finished at 7 o'clock this morning. So it was a 24-hour speed awareness, education and enforcement operation that was run by the 43 police forces of England and Wales, with the Police Service of Northern Ireland and Police Scotland also involved. We had hoped that there would be 0 casualties, 0 fatalities. We have had results now from 30 police forces, and amongst that is a confirmation of 6 fatalities. Now, if you bear in mind that the average on a day in the UK is 5, and yesterday over that 24-hour period there were 6, which I believe is a great disappointment, but it just shows how far we've got to go, how much work we've got to do to get on top of road danger. Something that we must all reflect on and think, how do we take this forward? How do we find the right partners? How do we work together better to put that message across? Something just to reflect upon. So here we are at Pont Abraham, and with me is David Llewellyn, Police and Crime Commissioner for Dyfed-Powys. Now, you were really supportive when I was out running in 2015 and came up with this Project Edward idea, and you've been great since. And I'm very pleased to see you re-elected earlier this year. Where does road safety figure on your list of priorities then, Commissioner?
Well, road safety is a significant priority for us in the Dyfed-Powys area. We've got, significant road infrastructure where 2/3 of the landmass of Wales. And you can imagine this summer, for example, has been really busy with people coming into the force area to enjoy the tourist locations that we have. So road safety is a top priority. I've spent today engaging with the community to understand what some of the key issues are. So we've been out to one of the schools with the fire service and police officers, just trying to give awareness messages out to the young people. And I've also been here in this area talking to roads policing officers. We've got a dedicated roads policing team that are based just up the road here, with also the Go Safe, which is the safety camera partnership here in Wales. And it's been quite enlightening, actually. And you mentioned there, sadly, the number of fatalities that happened yesterday. And I was talking to the serious collision investigation unit that we have. And again, they were reflecting on what has been, sadly, a very busy period. So if we can all do what we can in terms of sharing key messages around road safety, things like the Fatal 5, about safety on the roads, seat belts, speed, all the things that perhaps we at times take for granted. We can all play our part in making the roads as safe as possible. And Project Edward is very close to my heart. I think it's a really important message. It's an European message that is going across all of the different countries in Europe previously, but we're also taking it forward now across the UK. And it's great to hear that all the police and crime commissioners that you're engaging in are engaging and taking part in your activity. So I look forward to continue to work with you in the future.
Well, look, can I let you into a secret? Your colleague in West Mercia, we had him on his knees this morning. because we have a it's great to, when a police and crime commissioner gets on their knees for you, you know you've arrived, really.
But you were telling me that he was on his knees for signing the pledge. And
yes, well, we have a banner, and we'll be getting you to do that in just a few moments, if you would be so kind.
Of course, I will. But for me, what I would say, and this is the challenge, I guess, to all of us, is signing the pledge is one thing, but you've got to put that into action. You know, you've got to support your roads policing units in each of the police force areas, and then you've also got to work in partnership with, you know, in the case of us here in Wales, we work very closely with Welsh Government. Welsh Government are being quite ambitious in relation to road safety measures, looking to reduce speeds in particular in town centres, moving from 30, a speed limit of 30 down to 20. And we were in one of those pilot areas this morning. So today's all about road safety engagement from my perspective, and I look forward to signing the pledge once more.
Thank you so much, Dyfed-Powys Police and Crime Commissioner David Llewellyn. We were in one of those areas as well with a pilot 20-mile-an-hour zone, and we'll be finding out about that in just a few minutes. But first, let's backpedal into the town of Leominster this morning, on a beautiful morning, for something that was called Dying to Drive. It's an initiative for young drivers. And as that was getting ready, we had the opportunity to talk to the Hereford and Worcester Deputy Chief Fire Officer, Keith Chance, and before that, to the West Mercia Police and Crime Commissioner, John Campion.
So one of my first priorities is about ensuring that we reduce the number of people killed and seriously injured. Too many people die on the roads, too much harm is caused on the roads, and we need a concerted effort to reduce it. And that's why projects like today, working with the fire service and other partners, is key to making sure that we buck that trend and those figures go down.
What does the picture look like in your region, West Mercia, Hereford, Worcester, Shropshire? What are the particular problems? Who are the groups you're targeting?
So here we've seen a decline over a long period of time, but we start to see it level off, and that's worrying. We need to make sure we get a bit more concerted effort behind it. So we need to approach it from both ends. So the older drivers who've been driving for a very long time, making sure their behaviour and indeed skills on the road are where they should be, but also the people entering their driving career are doing it with the right attitudes, understanding the risk, understanding also the consequences of their actions, because ultimately those are the people that are going to drive the next 40 years. We want to make sure we're doing it safely.
And that's kind of why we're here, because Dying to Drive introduces the pre-driving generation to some of the risks and the opportunities, I guess, of being a safe driver or choosing not to be. And telling us more about that is Keith Chance, who is Deputy Chief Fire Officer for Hereford and Worcester Fire and Rescue. You've been a great supporter of Project Edward, and we're really grateful for that. Tell us a little bit about what will happen here at Leominster Police Station for Dying to Drive today.
Good. Well, thank you, and thank you for coming this morning. Dying to Drive has been running for just over a decade now, and it was set up in conjunction with all of the partner agencies, so the police, the ambulance and ourselves, and the local councils, to reduce the number of deaths and serious injuries on our roads in young drivers. Today is really aimed at those teenagers that are just about to start their driving, and identifies the main causes of accidents across the three counties.
What do you think works in terms of getting inside the head of a young person who may be about to start their driving career? We've heard a lot about kind of smart versus shock. What do you think works?
I think we've got a good mixture of that here today, and what we do is we have 4 significant areas that we focus on, including speed, distractions, and those sort of areas. I mean, the biggest killer of young men between the ages of 17 and 25 is road accidents. So we use a mixture of shock and getting inside the heads, as you put it. So we do also a demonstration later on today of an extrication involving all 3 services, which is quite hard-hitting. But the session ends with the Eli Trust coming in, and 2 mothers that have sadly lost children on the roads of Herefordshire and Worcestershire give a very moving account of what they went through. And to me, that is the biggest hard-hitting element of the day, and you see the teenagers really react to that.
We'll come back to John Campion. What do you want young people to take away with them when they leave Dying to Drive today?
The power is in their hands. Their choices that they make will absolutely make a difference, because ultimately, if they choose to drive while using their mobile phone, or to drive while under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or choose to drive too fast for the conditions, their actions are likely to have a consequence. And today, that's bringing it to life, and for me, that's really, really powerful, because whilst we are working to eradicate the number of people killed on our roads, it is going to be around for a while. So therefore, whilst that is still the case, we need to make sure that people understand the consequences, and ultimately they know if their behaviour does result in what we will see today, they are likely to have the full force of the law bring down and make sure those consequences are real from then. And today is about saying it doesn't have to be that way. We can change history. We can change the what would have been inevitable.
From Leominster, we made our way down the beautiful Wye Valley and into the Brecon Beacons, where we had time to catch up with PC Adam Jones from Brecon Roads Policing Unit. Then it was to St Bride's in the Vale of Glamorgan. The sun continues to shine as we arrive in St Bride's Major and to the primary school here, where I'm going to try and remember some names and they've already gone. So, Zachary, Morgan, Olivia, Eloise, George, I promise never to forget those names. You've got 20-mile-an-hour speed limits in this village now.
Yeah.
Does that make things a bit safer?
I believe that it makes things a lot safer due to the amount of road incidents at 30 miles an hour. Currently there are 1 in 500 chance of a fatal injury at 20 miles an hour, but a 1 in 5 chance at 30.
Let's move on to Morgan. Do you have to cross the road? Do you have to use the road to come to school?
I have to cross by the on the island, but I have to say that some people use it as a roundabout and it's sometimes not safe to cross.
Thank you, Morgan. So, Olivia, it's a lovely day today, so coming to school and going home is probably quite safe because we can all see a long way. What's it like in bad weather coming to school and leaving?
When it's snowing or when it's raining, it's very misty and you can't really see anything, but when you're going 30 miles per hour, if you need to brake because you can't see, there's if you put your foot down and start braking, you'll skid for 23 meters, but if you put your foot down at 20 miles per hour, you'll only skid for 12 meters.
Eloise, tell us about your journey to school.
Well, I live just around the corner and I usually come through the alleyway instead of the road because there's usually big quarry trucks coming through the village at like more than 30 miles an hour.
What about George? Give us your tips for staying safe. Imagine I'm visiting or new to St Bride's Major and I got to walk to school. Give me 2 or 3 really good tips that I can stay safe.
Well, first always just check both sides of the road to see if there's any cars coming, or always, if you can't see any, always still listen out for cars and just to always walk at a sensible speed across the road.
George, thank you so much, George, and everybody. We'll be back in a moment, but first of all, I just want to introduce you to Patrick Mcguire, who is a solicitor and a partner at HCC, who are sponsoring Project Edward this year. And Patrick is explaining about actually what happens when things have gone wrong, when someone's involved in a crash, and what the priorities are in the post-crash care.
Generally speaking, for someone who has suffered a serious or catastrophic injury, the common priorities will be getting that individual home from hospital and making sure that the home is suitable for them and they've got the appropriate care in place to make sure that transition can be as smooth as possible. Often rehabilitation will be a real focus for the family to make sure that when they are home that they're getting the best rehabilitation to give the injured person the best chance of the best possible outcome from their injury, together with financial concerns as well. Often if the injured person is an earner or the breadwinner, then there will be those concerns as well. So often with someone who's seriously or catastrophically injured, those 3 priorities will be the main ones.
Now, claims after road crashes are not known for progressing quickly, are they? What can be done to speed up the process? Because that would benefit everyone, surely.
The one thing that we will try and do to get that family closure from the civil claims process as quickly as possible is to try and get a date in the diary at an early stage with the insurers to sit down with them to try and come to a resolution of the claim. It focuses the minds of the lawyers and the insurers to ensure the case is progressed in a timely fashion. It will also give the family or the injured person some understanding of how long the process is likely to take. And that will often be anywhere between 18 months and 3 years following a fatal incident or serious injury.
How has the post-crash care landscape changed over the course of your career, Patrick? What do you think could be improved?
What I can say has improved over recent years is the pathways for people that have suffered serious injury to get rehabilitation quicker. The Rehabilitation Code and the Serious Injury Guide, which are frameworks that put rehabilitation for those seriously injured at the forefront. I see the work and the fantastic work that family liaison officers do in supporting families when the worst happens. Charities such as Road Peace and Break do in supporting families. And of course, schemes such as Project Edward in providing awareness. An area that needs improving is the Fatal Accident Act. So the Fatal Accident Act is the framework for who can claim damages following the passing of a loved one. It's outdated, and in certain circumstances it doesn't recognise members of the family, where perhaps 20, 25 years ago it was fit for purpose. With the modern day family setup, which perhaps is a little different in certain circumstances the way it was many years ago, that is certainly an area that needs improving to make sure that people aren't treated unfairly purely because of an outdated act.
Duncan Mottram, Head Teacher, St Bride's Major.
Give us a quick rundown of the issues that you may face on the roads around here.
Well, the main issue we have is congestion and irresponsible driving at peak times of the school day. So 9 o'clock in the morning and 3:30, it's a very busy community, and we've got to do everything we can to keep the children safe here.
Are you pleased to see a 20-mile-an-hour limit here?
Yes, absolutely delighted. The school community's been working hard with parents, governors, the local authority and the police to get the speed limit reduced from 30 to 20. So we're delighted to be part of the new Welsh Government pilot scheme.
Jason Williams, I'm Inspector with Gwent Police. I'm shaping the enforcement for policing in relation to the 20-mile-per-hour projects across Wales.
It's one of 8 sites here. How did you choose them, and how will you evaluate the project?
Local authorities put in bids to Welsh Government to be part of the pilot sites, and they went through a rigorous process to make sure that we identify the right site that would give us our best data. Because what we want to understand is how we can best affect the local community, the measures that we can put in place, the safety measures, the enforcement, but also couple that with the engagement and education as well. So there's a lot to try and gain from the pilot sites across Wales.
Thank you.
Glenn Lewis, Station Manager, South Wales Fire and Rescue Service, responsible for road safety. Let's
talk about options then. How do you fit in when someone violates a 20-mile-an-hour limit?
Well, what we do is we've got several events going at different locations throughout South Wales, and the options is one of those, working in conjunction with our partners in South Wales Police and local authority. And the aim of that really is to educate motorists who have exceeded the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. We have a presentation ready to go and deliver to them to show them the benefits of reduction in speed down to 20 miles an hour.
Were you impressed by what the kids knew? They had some good figures there, some good data about stopping distances at 20 and 30.
I wouldn't even try to get involved in any sort of discussion with them. They probably know far more than I do as well. So, yeah, and again, it's good to see obviously the young people being involved, being proactive, looking at reducing speed in the area, in the community, because it only benefits those and their siblings in the long run.
And what a great time we had at St Bride's Major. Brilliant stuff there from teachers, visitors, and particularly the children. Well done to everybody. Okay, let's just have a quick talk about partnership working. And we're here to meet Sergeant Ian Price from Dyfed-Powys Police and Spencer Lewis from Mid and West Wales Fire and Rescue. I have to say, partnership working about half an hour ago meant the police were down there about half a mile and fire were up there about half a mile, but that's all been sorted and we're all together in one place now. Ian Price, why is it important that you have partners such as fire and rescue?
Well, they can help us with various aspects of what we all do as emergency services, turning up at collisions, so they can share their experiences of portraying that situation or real life situation with a victim in a car, for instance. So we can portray a collision scene. They can show how impactful it is on resources, the general public at large, how we can impact on society. We try and educate children, the new young drivers as well. We go into the schools with them. We give an element of the enforcement and how impactful on losing licenses, where obviously the fire brigade come in and give them the angle of what they have to deal with cutting people out of collision scenes and that. It's great to be partnership because we can't do it all on our own. So having our colleagues from fire service and ambulance come into that is crucial for us to get that message across.
And I guess, Spencer, you would rather meet people here and have a chat to them than have to send one of your crews out there for them.
Yes, indeed. For us to have 5 minutes conversation with individuals who have stopped here in Pont Abraham, as opposed to us coming to see them in a big red fire engine after collision.
Has it been good so far? Have you had some good conversations?
Yeah, indeed. There's plenty of footfall coming through the services. And traffic officers are bringing more and more customers in to see us.
Well, look, I'm really grateful. Project Edward places huge value on its relationships with fire and rescue and with police. So thank you very much to you both. I hope the afternoon continues to be effective and useful, a good use of your time. Now, I'm here in West Wales. Let's see if we can just join up with Neil Barrett. You're in the black car, aren't you, Neil? I've slightly forgotten, but I think you're somewhere northeast of here, if I guess right.
Oh, yeah. First of all, print out there, James. Good afternoon. Yes, we are in Wolverhampton in the West Midlands. What's the weather like over there, by the way?
It's absolutely gorgeous. It's superb. I can just see blue sky everywhere. It's just like Wales any day of the year.
Yes, God's own country, as I've been told many times. Here, bit mixed fortunes here. Anyway, thanks for that. Welcome to Wolverhampton. We are on the Parkfield Road, just south of the main city, for Operation Safer Junction. Now, it kind of does what it says on the tin, really. It's an operation where they're looking at vulnerabilities junctions. And all road users are involved, educating cyclists, pedestrians, motorcyclists, small vehicle drivers, large vehicle drivers, speaking to everybody about how they can look out for each other and make roads safer. They're also doing the hard stops, issuing tickets, issuing penalties, that sort of thing. I'm just going to ask my cameraman to pan around so you can see the junction itself they're working on. It is a major junction, actually. You're looking at the junction of the A4123 and the A4039. So that's sort of up to Kidderminster and Wombourne there. You've got the main road out to Birmingham, Dudley, and the M5 there. It's a busy, busy junction. You can see, what are we now? 3:30. And you can see it's quite filling up quite a bit there. Quite a few stops already, but I wanted to find out a bit more about how roads policing works here. Every force is different. How this operation works, where the information comes in, that sort of thing. So I spoke earlier to Police Sergeant Jonathan Butler, and here's what he had to say.
Right, go. So Jonathan, tell us a bit more about Operation Safer Junction.
Okay, so Operation Safer Junction was devised by the officers on the Road Harm Prevention team at West Midlands Police, primarily because in our region it's been highlighted to us through partnership work that pedestrians are our biggest priority for casualty risks in the area. The ethos behind it is to look out for junction offences, so we're looking for vehicles that contravene red traffic lights. We're looking for vehicles that might overshoot junctions, putting cyclists and pedestrians at risk. And we're also looking for window tint offences. Obviously, dark windows prevents vision of people crossing the road. But at the same time, we're also stopping and engaging with pedestrians as well, just to raise awareness that they're approaching quite pivotal points where they could come into conflict with other road users.
Yeah, that's important too. I'm going to ask my cameraman to just walk in a couple of steps here as we go along. So how much of this is all about encouraging road users to share the road with others as well, because it's about consideration for those around you?
Absolutely, and whilst the operation primarily is to protect pedestrians who obviously we're aware of vulnerable road users, it's also to protect other vulnerable road users such as pedal cyclists. We do see a lot of junction collisions with pedal cyclists and also motorcyclists as well. So it is very much about pushing that message of sharing that space together. And also, as I say, we're talking to pedestrians as well. So it's trying to get that message to pedestrians that just because the traffic light's showing red, it might not necessarily mean that you've got that right of way to step out. Just be a bit more aware of your surroundings before stepping out.
Yeah, and how much of residents' concerns feed into you here, and how much is data and stats when it comes to deciding where to deploy?
So a majority of our deployments do come from Stats 19, and we have analysts back at CMPG that look at 3-year collision data to highlight to us where we're going to get the best results for reducing collisions. So this section of road that we're at today, Parkfields Road, this has been highlighted to us as one of our main routes to focus on this year. Having said that, we do also respond to community concerns, and we work quite closely with our colleagues in the local authority, and we do attend locations that have been highlighted to us through community concerns.
And tell us about what you've seen out here today.
So today we've run a couple of operations. So this morning we ran an Operation Zigzag, which is focused on crossings. We had several offences detected there where we've spoken to motorists who have paid no attention to the fact that they've travelled for a pedestrian crossing at speed. Obviously the point of that operation is to raise awareness both to road users around the dangers as they approach crossings, but also to pedestrians about the dangers they may come across as they approach crossings. Then we ran Operation Close Pass. As you're aware, West Midlands Police pioneered Operation Close Pass. We've just run that operation round the corner on the Penn Road. Very successful. A majority of people passed safely, but unfortunately we still did have a couple of prosecutions from that and some education delivered.
And people can still see you over the coming days as well?
Absolutely. So obviously we're here in Wolverhampton today. We're in another part of the force tomorrow, and all of our activity today, tomorrow and earlier in the week has been focused completely on protecting vulnerable road users and highlighting the dangers that all road users may encounter, and sort of highlighting how we share that space and do it sensibly.
Sergeant Jonathan Butler, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Police Sergeant Jonathan Butler talking to me a few minutes ago. Well, that about wraps things up for here in Wolverhampton at Parkfield Road for Operation Safe Junction. This is the last time you're going to see me out on the road on my own. We're all meeting up tomorrow in the West Midlands, so I've not got too far to go, but it just remains for me to say thank you to my co-driver and cameraman Tim Reason, who's been an absolute legend this week. Thanks to all the police teams, fire teams, and road safety professionals who've spoken to us all week. Really looking forward to reuniting the 3 road trip cars and the teams tomorrow. And the last thing I'll say is over to you, Neil Jewson-Smith. How's social doing?
Afternoon, Neil. Thanks very much. Social's doing well, as it has done all week. We're now up to about 43.5 million impressions on Twitter. So it's all going very well. The stats are up there on the screen shortly. You can see there've been over 6,000 tweets now. And nearly 1,700 unique contributors, so it's absolutely fantastic. Some great messages today. Durham Constabulary have put some stuff out, which is excellent. Carnell Highways have been looking at fatigue, which is a really a topical road safety area. And then Hampshire Police, they put a post out today, which is a really important one, really. The Isle of Wight Festival is this weekend, and the roads policing team down in Hampshire have been down at Portsmouth, talking to people getting on the ferries, going to the Isle of Wight to look at driving post-alcohol and drug use, and the fact of the morning after scenario when they've all been at the festival all weekend and then they're driving home, we could have some problems. So they've been doing some great engagement work and preventative work there, which is excellent. The only other thing I would say is that Instagram is something that Project Edward is on. We are there. We've tickled it for a couple of years, but we've been playing with some reels this year, and not huge figures. But for Project Edward, they're quite impressive. We've got 3,000 views of our reels so far on Instagram. And for such a small account with a small following, we're quite pleased with that. But it's all good. But that's all from the socials for now, other than to say that we drew yesterday's competition winner earlier on. Grant A from South Yorkshire won his dash cam from Nextbase UK, and that is already in the post and on the way to him. And on that, we can turn our eyes here in Cheshire a little bit to the south towards Staffordshire and Yarnfield, where Simon in the white car is at the Open Reach depot in Yarnfield. Simon, good to see you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Neil. And thanks for all the hard work you've done with the social stats. Really impressive stuff today. So, yes, as Neil mentioned, I'm at the Open Reach Employee Training Centre at Yarnfield, and I've been looking at all the programs that they've got in place to ensure that their drivers are safe on the road. Now, Open Reach is the second biggest fleet in the country. It's got over 30,000 drivers, 30,000 vehicles. They travel over 220 million miles every year. So driver safety is paramount to this organisation. And to reinforce that fact, Director for Governance and Assurance, John Firmston, provided us with this video earlier today.
In Open Reach, we've got the second biggest commercial fleet in the UK, and we drive about 200 million miles per annum. Just to put that into context, that's about 400 trips to the moon and back. And so with that much time on the road safety is extremely important to us. And as a result, we do an awful lot to try and keep our people safe. We have comprehensive training for all our new recruits. That's both theoretical, vehicle safety checks, and instructor-led training. We even have virtual reality headsets as part of that. We then, once they're out on the road, we do regular ongoing follow-up checks of all our 32,000 drivers, including looking at their licenses and any penalties, etc. We give people extra training, particularly after they've been unfortunate enough to have had a collision, or when they're changing their vehicle size and nature. And we have telematics to monitor their driving behaviours. And as we're going into winter, we will be having a campaign to basically help keep people safe in their driving habits as the nights draw in and the weather gets colder. So we, overall, it's something we really have to pay an awful lot of attention to, and we certainly do, and we do all we can to try and keep our people safe.
So I think that video clearly demonstrates the commitment from the top of Open Reach to ensuring that all the drivers and vehicles are safe when they're out going about their daily business. Quite clearly showed the objectives for safety, and I'm here now with three of the guys who are tasked with actually putting those objectives and that commitment into practice. So first, if we could come to you, Jim Pritchard. So you're senior recruitment manager, and uniquely, your previous role, one of your previous roles was as an army driving instructor. So that must give you a unique perspective on the skills and attitudes that are required when you're recruiting drivers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, when we are recruiting our drivers, we're looking for people who have got, a nice, good, clean, necessarily clean license, but a good driving record. Because we see lots of people. I mean, this year we've recruited 3,500 in the last sort of 12 months. All have got to go through a driving package. We see them coming from people who just recently acquired the license, and some who've been driving 30, 40 years. So a big mixed bag. And we obviously ensure that they get all that relevant training that they need to make them safe and out there on the road.
Fantastic. And Kieran Tickner, if I can come to you, you're the road risk safety manager. So you're developing the driver safety programs and the training programs that help develop these skills on an ongoing process. So how do you do that? What sort of programs have you put together?
So over the last year, we've just revitalised our entire driver package. So we do a half-day theory for our engineers, drivers, and also a full half-day in vehicle training. But also we're now looking at virtual reality and seeing what that part can play in, giving them a bit of a try before they go out in the real van to make sure they're safe before they go outside. And it gives them, for those that are, like Jim mentioned, not been out in a van before, gives them a feel for what it's going to be like, because they're actually measured to our same dimensions, so which is really good.
And how much time do they actually spend on the driver training part of the induction program?
So this full day driver training, but they do 3.5 hours in vehicle training with our independent instructors.
Fantastic. Now, we took a look at some of those activities earlier. There's a short video clip we've got to play now showing the classroom training where they're doing drug and alcohol awareness and fatigue awareness. We've got VR training as well. And then they come out for a fleet of vans where they learn how to do their pre-use defect checks before they go out on the road. Now, having seen them do all of that, I caught up with two of the trainees, Georgina and Callum, and asked them what the best bits about the training were and what they felt how they felt they benefited from that training and how that would help them when they were on the road.
So Georgina, you're a new recruit with OpenReach. You started on Monday and today's been one of the driver training days. What have you got out of today?
It's been really interesting. We started with our theory in the morning, so like listening to all different stories and watching videos on like safety and everything. Then had to go on the VR set that we have, which was really useful because you could feel the weight of the van behind you, which I've never driven a van before. And then now just doing all the vehicle safety checks has been really interesting.
And so once you've finished your checks, you're out on the road?
I am, yeah.
Are you happy the van's safe?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Georgina, thank you.
Thank you.
Daddy. Callum, hi. So you're a new recruit today, this week. It's your first week with OpenReach. What have you got out of the driver training program that you've been through?
It was a lot more fun than other stuff I've done before. Usually I get, throwing the keys and just go on, there's your van. But we spent a whole day working and developing, and we had a virtual VR driving course thing. And yeah, it was really fun, something different. I really enjoyed it.
So what did you learn specifically out of the VR? What did that help you with?
Well, it was just something different. I've never really driven a van before either, and it just gives you that feel and the motion of driving in a bigger van.
Fantastic. Thanks, Callum.
That's right.
So the training certainly benefited those two graduates there. Now I'm also joined by Matt Bailey, who's the fleet manager for OpenReach. We've been doing our road trip this week in Kia Soul electric vehicles. We've done, between the three teams, we'll have done over 3,000 miles by tomorrow afternoon. Matt, I just wanted to ask you, you're, as a fleet manager, obviously starting to make that transition to electric vehicles now. And what impact does that have on your fleet management processes? Because presumably certain things are different. There's vehicle checks, for instance, are going to have to be slightly different.
Yeah, that's right. It's absolutely a nuance to us at the moment. So we're having to go through changing all of our vehicle safety checks to encompass all of the electrical elements of EV vehicles. So such as things like the charging cable, and making sure that the drivers who drive the EVs are also checking their home chargers if they're installed with one, to make sure that obviously it's fit for purpose and not going to pose any risk to them when charging, as well as checking out all of the vehicle charging port as well, to make sure obviously through wear and tear it's actually fit for purpose and not posing a health and safety risk.
And are there any differences to driver behaviour, for instance? Do you have to teach them sort of different attitudes or different approaches to driving in the EVs?
Yeah, so obviously one of the key things with an EV is silent running, pretty much. Even though our EVs are fitted with sound emitters, people in the public still don't necessarily know the sound of an EV, so it does catch them out, and drivers have been quite quickly picking up on that, and obviously being able to change the way that they drive through specially built up areas, and especially in densely populated areas.
Fantastic. Now, Jim, I just wanted to come back to you because we heard a change in the law regarding towing recently, and I just wondered how that would affect the way your approach to your drivers, because I think some of your drivers tow as well.
They do, yeah. So all the guys and girls in the FND, so the field network delivery, and the chief engineers teams who are the cablers, you can see them just over on the right-hand side. We had a load delivered in the last week. The cabling trucks, where previously we were looking to do the full B+E acquisition, obviously that's now being stepped back by government, and the law changes sometime in April where anybody with a Cat B licence virtually can now go out and tow. So it's fundamental that, given the fact that you're going to be towing on the road, which is a complete different, the vehicle feels different, the way it handles is different, then we're working through with Kieran and the health and safety team and our supplier to make sure we've got a new training course fit for purpose. We're not going to let anybody take a trailer out on the road with a vehicle that haven't had the right relevant safety training. It's fundamental to everything we do. OpenReach has got a really cracking safety policy where we work safe and we go home safe, and that's the key thing around the trailers. So we are designing a whole new package.
I think that encapsulates what I've seen from watching everybody here today, is that it's not just about training them to be OpenReach employees. You can quite clearly see that you all view, and the directors of the company view, driving as a key part of that job that has to be carried out professionally and safely at all times.
Like you said, with over 30,000 vehicles on the road, anywhere you look, you'll always see an OpenReach vehicle. And there's always going to be a driver, and unfortunately accidents do happen, where we can make our drivers as safe as they physically can and make them more socially aware of the vehicles on the road and their place on the road. That's pretty key.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys. I've had a really interesting and informative afternoon here, and it was great to go and have a go on the VR kits as well and experience what your graduates have done. As Neil said earlier, this is our last trip, our last stop on the road trip where we're all on our separate legs. We're all meeting up tomorrow morning for one final road trip stop, where we're going to be in the West Midlands. So follow us on all the social channels. Until then, we'll be putting out lots of posts later on this evening, recapping what we've done over the week. And hopefully we'll see you all in the morning for the final road trip stop. Thank you all. Good night.